I recorded this video about an hour ago, and when I finished recording, I thought it was kind of a grab bag and the issues were not related. But after I finished editing the video, I realized that they really are related. So many Christians on social media, at least the ones that tweet and talk about these issues that I'm interested in, they're living in the upside down. Right is left, up is down, good is bad, evil advice is good advice, and people rage at all the wrong things. And it's really interesting. What we're going to have in this video is three things that I saw on social media yesterday. And the first two are just absolutely insane takes from Christians. I just can't even believe a Christian thinks in this way. And then one of them is a very obviously good take by a Christian. And you can be willing to bet that the good take is being roundly condemned by many people, raging against it. And the two insane takes are generally accepted, and they sound good to a lot of Christian ears. The way to avoid this kind of thing is to be grounded in Scripture. When somebody tells you something is bad or good or whatever, you need to ask them, by what standard? Where do I get this from the Bible? You got to stay grounded in this stuff, because otherwise you're going to end up living in the upside down as well, and you definitely don't want to do that. The Bible says, "Woe to those who call good evil and evil good." Woe is a serious thing. You shouldn't want to be one of those people that Christ is declaring woes to. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. God bless. All right, well, three topics this morning. Hope you had a good Monday. The first thing I wanted to comment about is this halftime show thing. And this always gets presented in a way that I think is very dishonest. Anyone who had a problem with the halftime show is raging, like I'm supposed to be outraged at this halftime show. And most people that I saw talking about the halftime show were like, yeah, this was the most obvious, most predictable thing ever of all time. My own wife, she doesn't really pay attention to the social justice debate as much as I do. She doesn't really pay attention to all of these cultural things as much as I do. And I remember she heard that it was going to be Shakira and J-Lo, and she goes, "Oh yeah, that's going to be trashy. We get it. We're going to have to figure something else out for our kids." Nobody was really outraged by it. It's just very sad to see that this kind of thing is commonplace in our culture. 50 years ago, this is the kind of thing that, you go into a dark alley and you try to hide your face when you're going into the club to see this kind of thing. Now it's at the halftime show. There's no outrage here. This is obvious. This is something that we know was going to happen. We know happens every single day. But it's a really good example of the degradation of our culture. The degradation of our culture, that we would celebrate and pretend like it's an awesome achievement for two 50-year-old women. And someone told me one of them is 40. 40-year-old and a 50-year-old woman who at this point in their lives, really shouldn't be making these kinds of mistakes. You know what I mean? Putting their bodies and wiggling around in a sexually suggestive way for all to see, kind of thing. You can excuse sometimes a younger lady for making a mistake like this, even though it's not right for them either. But at this point, I mean, they should have men protecting them from this kind of disaster. And instead, we're letting them, strip on stage essentially at the Super Bowl halftime show. It's a really sad thing to see. So no outrage here, no despair. It's just another example of how degraded our society has become. What I have seen, though, is some people say, well, the Latinos in my timeline don't seem to have a problem with it. In fact, they're just so grateful to have some of their culture represented at the halftime show. And I'm thinking to myself, are you insane? Are you insane? Especially if you're a Christian, are you insane? The fact that Puerto Ricans don't have a problem with J-Lo shaking her butt on stage, dancing on a stripper pole in the sign of a cross, they don't have a problem with that. That's actually not a very good reason to not have a problem with it yourself. Like, we don't take our cues based on people. I mean, this should be obvious, right? Like in this, and one guy I saw tweet, he said, I don't want to assume that something is intentionally objectifying women in another culture. Maybe we're even going to bring this into the new heavens and new earth. Like, insane. You need to get your head examined if this is your position. Like, you mean to tell me that you call yourself a Christian or a pastor and you can't tell the difference between a cultural element that is objectifying a woman and a cultural element that's not? You need to get your head examined. It's just that simple. You're insane. The next thing I want to talk about, that's the last thing I'm going to say about the halftime show. I don't really care about it that much. I didn't watch it. I knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. And so anyway, this is coffee today. No tea for me today. I'm not a tea guy normally, but I've been drinking a little bit of tea lately just to calm me down, that kind of thing. Anyway, next topic. The other thing I wanted to address is this whole idea of critical theory. I saw somebody say this about critical theory. This reminded me of something that James White experienced. He made the point that if we rail against critical theory in the Southern Baptist Convention, then and if we do that, we're gonna shut down any conversation with our black and brown brothers and sisters in Christ. Almost as if like look. Blacks and browns by nature accept this critical theory stuff. So you have to at least, maybe scale back the rhetoric a little bit, at least admit that there's some value to it. Otherwise, blacks and browns aren't going to come to the table to talk to you. And I'm like, so essentially, let me get this straight. What you're saying is we need to capitulate in order to have a conversation. That's what you're saying. Not only that, you're also saying that blacks and browns are so ignorant, so stupid, so immoral, that they have to accept this absolutely objectionable anti-Christian ideology when it comes to race. They just do. And so if you want to talk to them, you need to at least partially accept it too. Like, that is so condescending. It's the bigotry of low expectations. I mean, this person would never say this outright, but what he's saying is that blacks and browns, they just can't understand these things from a biblical perspective. They need these unbiblical helps, like critical race theory. They need James Cone to come in and save the day and interpret the Bible for them. And if you shut that, if you want to win your black and brown brothers and sisters in Christ, then you can't come so hard against non-Christian ideologies. This is a pastor who said this. Unbelievable. Again, you need to get your head examined if this is how you think we should engage the culture. We basically have to capitulate in order to win them to Christ. And this idea is not new. Do you remember James White when he was trying to debate Matthew Vines? I don't remember if he was trying to debate Matthew Vines, but I think someone had suggested that they debate. Matthew Vines, the homosexual, he's not a Christian, but he professes Christ. The homosexual that James White did a critique of his presentation. Someone suggested that they debate, and Matthew Vines would not debate him unless he admitted at the outset that there was such a thing as gay Christianity or gay Christians. And James White wouldn't do that because obviously what Matthew Vines is trying to do is say, look, I want you to accept my worldview before I will debate the worldview. So essentially, capitulate before I'll even debate you. And the answer to that is just no. No, I'm not going to capitulate in order to get a hearing with you. Look, let me tell you this right now, and let me tell you this with as much sincerity as I possibly can. If a black or brown person won't talk to you about social justice or race or Christianity unless you accept the validity of some parts of critical theory, just say no. Then I don't want to talk. If that's the rules, then I don't want to talk. I don't have to accept false ideologies in order to have a conversation. That's not how it is. That's not how it is. In fact, if you did do that, if you do accept false ideologies just to have a hearing with someone, that's actually bearing false witness. That actually doesn't help anything. Feeding into someone's delusion doesn't help them. It's the same play that we're getting run with this transgender stuff. Well, if you want to have a hearing with transgenders, then you need to buy into their delusion a little bit. At least call them by their proper pronoun. Like, no. I'm never going to do it. I do not consent. See, this is the thing. You just don't consent to that stuff. And if it means you can't have a conversation with someone who's dedicated to critical race theory, so be it. We would understand this in almost every single other area. Like, let's just say somebody said to you, you need to accept that Muhammad's a prophet before I'll even talk to you about your Christ. If somebody said that, you'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not accepting that Muhammad's a prophet. I'm not accepting that before I'll talk to you. No, but I will preach at you. And this is the thing, like, Like, everyone's trying to convince you to come to their side before you even have a hearing. It's hospitality, after all. Hospitality to use someone's fake pronouns. Hospitality to use someone's fake name. Hospitality to consider Muhammad a prophet. Hospitality to accept critical race theory. No. The answer is no. There is nothing in the Bible that makes that a requirement or even says that that's allowed. Don't do it. Don't consent. I mean, these people need to get their head examined at this point. I mean, what? Anyway, let's move on to the third topic, and let me have another sip of coffee here. All right, third topic. I saw this tweet. Michael Foster. I like Michael Foster's Twitter feed because obviously he knows he's going to say something that's going to cause problems. But the thing is, he picks things that he knows will cause problems, but they're like so obvious that it's always useful for an illustration. Listen to how obvious this advice is, and just understand at the outset that he got tons of hate for this. And this is the easiest piece of advice anyone's ever given. Ready? Here's what it says. He says, I greatly caution men when they're considering marrying a single mother. A lot of well-meaning, naive men have found themselves in terrible marriages or worse because they failed to ask the obvious question: why is she single with a kid? This is so obvious. If you haven't really, if you're dating a single mother and you haven't really kind of gotten to the bottom of how did this happen, how did she become single, you really need to before you get married. Now, because there could be an obvious, reason, like her husband died. Okay, like sometimes women's husbands die. That's just how it is sometimes, right? Okay, fair enough. Or there could be another reason. There could be a problem with the woman. Now, here's the thing. Like, people have this tendency of saying, well, if you're saying there's a problem with a person, that's horrible. That's not showing any empathy. And it's like the reality is, like, do we understand what a sin nature is? Do we understand what the fall was? There are problems with people. You've got problems with yourself. And it's a very smart thing to get to the bottom of that stuff before you enter a covenant with that woman. You enter a covenant with that woman. I mean, let's say you start asking questions. She's single with a kid. How did this happen? And you find out over the course, she's been married 3 or 4 times. Well, you pretty much have to be an idiot to try this one again. You understand what I'm saying? This is a very important question for any single man who's dating a woman with a kid and no husband. This is a very important question. This is obvious advice, and he got tons of hate for this. I actually retweeted this, and I kind of reframed it a little bit. This is another piece of obvious advice that you should very much consider. I remember I gave this advice to someone very close to me, and she got really mad at me. Because listen, let me tell you what my advice was. I said this. I said, I offer the same advice for mothers who find themselves single with children. They need to be very cautious when considering a husband. There are a lot of bad men looking to take advantage of a situation like yours. And the idea behind this is that you need to really question and scrutinize these men, because the reality is that a lot of really high quality men aren't going to be like that interested necessarily. And that doesn't mean that no good man's going to be interested in you, but that means that you need to be you need to scrutinize them, because of the demographics of people that would be interested in you with your single mom with your child, there's a higher percentage of predators that are looking to take advantage of that situation. A lot of predators are looking for very vulnerable women with kids. And so you need to very much scrutinize, why is this man interested in me? Is he a high quality man, or is he a predator? Is he someone looking to take advantage of me? You see, because I'm not saying that a high quality man won't be interested in a single mom, but the percentages there of high quality men interested in single moms are lower than in the general population. And so you need to scrutinize that, because predators want to take advantage of you. Predators want to take advantage of you. I remember I told someone this, and she thought what I was saying was that nobody good would be interested in you. You're damaged goods. That's what she thought I was saying, but I wasn't saying that. What I was saying, though, is that there's a lot of predators out there that are looking to take advantage of women in your exact situation because they know you're vulnerable. That's how predators work. That's how predators work. Even in the animal kingdom, predators try to pick off the weak. Predators try to take advantage of, ones that are hurting. They don't go after the strongest ones. They go after the weakest ones. That's how a predator works. And so you need to be careful. And you know how you need to be careful? You can't necessarily trust your own instincts here. If you're a single mom, you need to get other people involved in these decisions. You need to, hopefully you have your father in your life, right? So your father can scrutinize this man and this person and say, okay, what is this person's angle? They could be a good guy. Yeah, they could be a good guy, but I need to be extra careful here because he also could be a predator. Your church should also be involved. Your church should be involved in your personal life, by the way. Your church, your pastors should be involved in these kinds of life-altering decisions, who you get married to and things like that. People in your church should be involved in your life. Because the thing is, people on the outside have a much better chance of really evaluating a situation objectively. When you're in love and you're getting all those feelings and you like this man and you want a man, you're not necessarily in the best position to make the best decision. And so you need to be very careful. You need to be very careful when you're picking a man. And you see, here's the thing. You might not like the way this sounds because it kind of sounds like, because this is what this woman said to me. She said, well, you almost sounds like I'm not good enough for guys now. And I'm not saying that, but you have some dings on your transcript, I guess you could say. And they might not be your fault, or they might be your fault. But you need to know that predators are looking for people in your exact situation. And this woman that I was talking to, I think she's a great woman. I think she's a catch. But she needs to understand that the way the world works is this is what predators look for. And so you need to be careful. You need to be careful. Anyway, that's pretty much it for today. We'll see what else comes up. These days have a tendency of bringing a lot of other issues to bear as well. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, I hope this video was helpful. God bless. Kind of the end of that story where I told this woman, I gave this woman this advice, and she got really mad at me. The interesting part about that is that she was, in the moment, she was furious with me and got angry. She had time to think about my advice. A couple weeks later, she comes to me and says, you know what? You're exactly right. I do need to be careful. Probably she had a look at some of the statistics about, how children get abused and things like that and all. I'm telling you, predators look for these situations. So when you have someone who's objective, and I don't mean objective because I'm so smart and so rational, but what I mean is I'm not in it. I'm not emotionally connected to these men. You know what I mean? I can look at things and I can be a little bit more objective because I'm not in it. You see what I'm saying? You need people in your life like that can tell you, look, you got to be careful because of X, Y, Z, without having all of these emotions involved where they're kind of skewing things. So, anyway, I just wanted to tell you that because it's important to know that you might get rage and anger up front, but people are going to listen to you. So that's why you should speak truth to people. Anyway, God bless.